Two and one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to I have no idea where I am anymore. Conversation with Friends on Angel Meadows. My guest this evening is Sheila Quinn. I'm gonna let Sheila tell about herself because she is a very interesting young lady, and she's got a lot. She's learned a lot in a short time, and she wants to make sure that she can share with us. So, hey, Sheila, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Well, a little bit about myself. I am 47, and I'm a mom of 3 and a grandmother of 3, and getting ready to have baby number 4. But I've kind of started having my awakening in 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in church, kind of went to one of the largest churches here in my town, where the membership was. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And it would have 3 services a day with 5,000 people per service in it, just big services.
Yeah.
And anyways, it was Christmas, and they were doing their Christmas cantata thing,
Mm-hmm.
and had been going through a lot, just kind of questioning my faith and questioning where I was going with my life. Things just weren't working out. Seemed like one thing after another was just, happening. We had lost 3 family members a year apart, and I just, and I was having medical problems all at the same time. I mean, just like all of this stuff was coming at me at once. And so, we're sitting in church and we're watching the Christmas cantata and everything. And I just get this warm, energetic, radiation just going up and down my body. And I just sat there in just tears, and I just bawled and bawled and bawled. And at the moment, they just told me that a lot of stuff was going to happen, and it was happening for a reason, and that I was going to make it through, and my angels were going to be there the whole entire time, but there was a reason for everything I was going to go through. And I didn't understand it, and I wasn't going to understand it until the time was ready.
Exactly.
So I said, okay. So all of these things started happening, and I kept, seeking more about energy and meditation. And, like I said, we had 3 deaths in the family, and I just didn't understand it. I have a son that was bipolar who was causing a lot of problems. We took him everywhere, and nobody could tell us specifically how to deal with him, and I was just exhausted from it. And I stumbled upon a group of people through channeling Eric, and just kind of really, really studied a lot of things. And I was already doing what do you want to call it? Expanding my mind. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I can't think of the minute. But anyways, everything just started clicking, and things just started happening. And I had someone tell me a long time ago, you have a purpose. You're here to mentor people. You're here to tell people that, your story, and you're here to coach them, help them out with getting through the same things. And I just kind of put that in the back of my head, and I'm like, you're crazy because you obviously don't know me, And it just continued. People would continue to come to me and say, you know what, you need to share your story. You need to really put yourself out there. You're going to help somebody. And I kind of fought it and fought it and fought it. And then finally, you get to a point where your angels and your guides, and they're just like, they keep shoving it in your face. And you're like, okay. Okay. And it's like, okay, all right, I'm going to give in. I'm going to do it. So I've spent the last 6 months putting everything together and just really doing it full time. I had done hair for 27 years, and when I started doing hair, I thought it was my passion and my love. And it wasn't my passion and my love. It was a job. I've never really had anything that I was passionate and I loved other than when I did service work for people, when I was serving someone or, being a blessing to somebody. And so now that I'm doing what I love and what I want to do, I don't feel like it's a job. I've come to a lot of amazing people, and I want to be an inspiration to somebody else. So, but my main thing is to show love and light to everyone, to find the love in the most darkest corners, and help you find those keys and how to get through the situation. It's all about being in the now, not focusing on the negative, and it's being very, very positive. That was my hardest thing. I had a lot of negative in my life. When you have negative energy, it brings negative people to you. And that was the hardest thing for me to learn to cut the cord to, because I had so much anger in me from all the abuse and all the things that happened to me that negative people and negative things constantly attracted to me. Exactly. But once I cut that and quit doing that and started loving myself, I'm putting myself first. Even though I love my family, I have to be able to love myself so that I can love them.
Exactly.
And then I've had the most amazing people who have attracted to me because I'm putting out positive energy, so their positive energy is coming in. And, it's just all about, the laws of attraction. You're just, I can't think of the word. My mind just went blank. Having a blonde moment.
That's okay. We're allowed to have those on this show. This is why, we have those. We can highlight them in. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Trust me, my brain gets a brain fart every so often too. So,
yeah.
I'll give your brain a quick break here. Scott says it's compulsory in here to have blonde moments every so often. Scott would know. He's got a lot of blonde highlights going on there. Eric in the chat room says spirit leads us where we are needed, not when we want to go, which is very true.
Absolutely.
And a lot of us, we want one thing, and you want so much to do one thing that you're not seeing what you're supposed to do. So sometimes you just kind of gotta have that total emotional breakdown and
right. And also when spirit tells you something and you're like, instead of saying okay and taking it and saying, I'm going to run with that, the human in this is like, oh, you are absolutely crazy out of your mind. Yep. I am not going there. Yep. And spirit's not going to quit.
Nope.
If that's your true purpose, it's just going to keep on bugging you.
Yeah, well, we all have our path to do. And no matter how we end up fighting it by zigzagging it, we eventually do get back there. You may not have had to be where you are now until it happened now, so that you could, like you said, you went through everything you went through in life excuse me, everything you went through in life made you a more understanding person now. So that when somebody comes to you and says, this happened to me and this happened to me, you can not only understand, but you can relate. And sometimes relating to people is that much more important, and it's not something that, everybody's comfortable with. Things that happen in my life, things, I don't want to talk about, but I can relate when somebody comes to me and I'll talk to one-on-one. You've kind of put it all out there because you have your website and you just started a new show as well. So we're going to talk
Hmm.
about how that's going. But okay, Eric's got a little comment in there. When working with spirit, we have to learn the 5 magical letters. Trust. Trust, yes. But the thing is, Eric, not everybody can trust themselves. At least they think they can't trust themselves. So it's a little harder. Prime example here. Kind of stubborn and hard-headed.
Right. And one of the things that I want to focus on with my life coaching is the fact that there's a lot of women and even men, okay? And it's coming out now, and probably this is the reason why it's taken me so long, but there's a lot of people who have been sexually abused, and they don't talk about it. It's not talked about. It's not
Nope.
discussed, and I know when I was going to see a therapist because I was going, how everybody says, oh, you need to go see a psychiatrist, and you go in there to see a therapist who's never been sexually abused, who's never been in the situation where you've got to choose between, am I going to let this happen to me, or am I going to let them kill me, or am I just going to, go somewhere in my mind and just let it get over with so I can leave? Until you're in that situation, they don't know how to relate to it. So I think somebody that has been in that situation, who knows exactly how, has had it happen to them and can relate to it, is the best person. I would rather sit and talk to somebody else that's been through the same thing I have than go into an office to a psychiatrist who the whole time you're talking, it's like, well, how did that make you feel? Or and they're busy typing on their
It made me feel
computer.
like I want to beat the shit out of somebody, but yeah, no, it does make sense, and that's one of the reasons why I do this show. And as simple as it is that when somebody wants a reading, or whether it's a psychic or whatever, whether they want to go to a healer, and you want to kind of know a little bit about the person you want to go to, you're going to have trust issues, again. But as much as you trust spirit and you trust your gut, it's always better to have like a little bit of knowledge before you go into a meeting with somebody. So for me, this is what I do here is anybody who wants to come on my show, they get to come on and share who they are. Because like I said, my one big goal in every show that I do is to help one person, whether they're in the chat room, listening in the archives. I know that one person gets help. So I know that your story is going to definitely help somebody.
Absolutely. Yes. And, my story is kind of tragic. My father was in the military, and so we lived in Germany, and we lived in all kinds of different places. And my dad did 7 tours in Vietnam. And my dad had a nervous breakdown. And so my dad would come home, and he would beat the crap out of my mom in front of his kids, and my mom had finally had enough, and she had packed up everything, and they were going through the divorce. I had 3 older siblings that were my dad's stepchildren, so my mom sent them home to be with their dad, and so because they were in the middle of the divorce, she couldn't leave North Carolina with me and my little brother. She had to stay there until it was finished. So we moved into another little house, And my mom was going to nursing school at the time, and we had a babysitter that lived across the street from us. And her husband was, I don't remember if it was Navy or Marine or something. He was military. And I was about 4 or 5 years old. It was right after we got back from North Carolina, or from Germany. And that was the first time I remember ever being sexually abused. Something, I don't know what I had done. Something he didn't like what I was doing. He told me that he was going to take me in the bathroom and give me a spanking. You know? And so, his wife knew exactly what was going on and what he was doing, and was taken into the bathroom, and he assaulted me. And this happened a couple of times, before we left. And I was a little kid, didn't understand, And so we moved back to Oklahoma to be with my grandparents. And then my dad came back to Oklahoma, and he started talking to my mom. He would show up at random times and just, beat her up, strangle her. So my mom let us go to my grandmother's for visitation. And when I was 8 years old, my dad was supposed to take us home from our grandmother's, which was his mom. And instead of taking us home, he kidnapped us and took off with us for 2.5 weeks. And then my dad sexually assaulted me. And, again, I was a little kid, didn't know what was going on, He told me things, and, you're a little kid, you're going to believe your dad, and you're going to believe your mom, they're your parents, they're the adults,
Yep.
And so finally I opened up to a friend of mine about what had happened, and she told her mom, and her mom told my mom, and so then we went to court, and my dad got his rights taken away. Well, then my dad stalked us. We would move. We had to move every 6 months because he would hunt us down and find us, and we couldn't play outside without him driving up and down in front of the house, And that's not a way for any child to live, is to have to move every 6 months. And when I was 21 years old, he attacked, actually I was 19, he attacked my husband at the time, beat up my aunt. I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, and I was standing there pregnant, and I couldn't believe what he was doing, and he was like, but I love you, and da-da-da-da, and I look at him, and I'm like, you say you love me. If you love me, this is not showing me you love me. This is hurting the people around me, And I had to go to court and put my dad in jail, which is the hardest thing that somebody would ever have to do. But, I'd stand up for my rights.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to jail, and he finally quit following me and stalking me. And at 21, I had to forgive him. I couldn't go on with my life without forgiving him. So, I wrote my dad a note, took it to his house and left it on the door, said, this is my phone number, call me. Oh, and by the way, you have a granddaughter. And I wanted him to meet his granddaughter, which some people probably think that's kind of crazy, but, I have a forgiving heart, but I never left my daughter with him. He just saw her the one time.
Yeah.
And so we met, at a public place, and I sat down with him, and I said, you know what? I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want you to talk to me. I just want you to hear how I feel. So I told him how I felt, what he had done to me, and I said, you know, you can deny it until the day you die. You know, I was there, you were there, end of story. I said, but I forgive you because I know that you weren't in your right mind. I know that's not who you are. That's not what you are. And, you know, and this has got to stop. You've got to leave me alone, and you need to move on. And so my dad never really bothered me again. When I was 28, he passed away, and I had to take care of his estate. I had to bury him. So the next time I saw my dad, he was dead in the hospital, laying on the gurney, and I was being asked, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to donate his organs and all that? And, you know, that's just not what I was going to do. And, you know, I had to plan his funeral and all that other stuff. But, you know, even though all this stuff happened to me, it was a learning process. I had to forgive. I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn to trust my heart, because I was hanging on to anger, and it was carrying over into other parts of my life.
Yeah.
Now, other things happened, you know, in my marriage that I continued to be abused. My mother blamed me for the abuse that she received from my dad. So my mom was neglectful. She was hateful. She was physically abusive to me, because when she looked at me, she saw my dad, you know, and it was just all of that. And so I know what it is not to be loved and not wanted. And I just don't want anybody to continue to feel that way. You are loved. You are special. You know, there's a purpose for you being here. And you didn't cause any of that stuff to happen to you.
No, they didn't. And the thing is, you are there to show them that that you are special, and that nobody is alone. You know, because you're willing to talk to talk about it. And hey, Gemini, hi, Cheryl. You're willing to talk about it and to share your story, and so that people will understand that, you know what, somebody might be out there listening and think that they are exactly where you are and going, oh my God, I can't continue on. And then they're lucky enough to fall on to getting to know you like I have. They get to realize that they're not alone, that there is some way out there, and you're just like a shining proof that, you know, it doesn't have to break you. It doesn't have to break you. It's actually made you, and I know it's kind of like, you know, everyone's going to try to say, well, you know, it's for, you know, everything happens for a reason. As stupid, as simple as that sounds, and sometimes it's so irritating to hear that and along with the other word, patience, my child. What you went through, it made you stronger, and it made you more able to be understanding to people who are going through it. And it's your gift. One of your gifts is being able to allow people to know that they are not alone and they are loved.
Absolutely. The worst feeling any person, a child or an adult, is to feel that they are not loved and they are not worthy. A lot of people in our society today are committing suicide because they're searching for that love from somebody else, and because they're not taught that, you know, God loves you. God is you. God's inside of you. And you need to love yourself. And we're not taught how to love ourselves. We're not taught how to respect ourselves. we're taught that we're to give, and take, but we're not taught to give to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I believe that that's true, that when growing up, you're a little bit younger than me, but I'm of the same era that when we're growing up, our parents are teaching us how to give to everybody. We want to make sure people like us. We want to make sure everybody else is happy. And when our children are young, they do the same thing, and our husbands the same thing. We forget about ourselves. But I think that the openness that we are experiencing now, your story, my story, everybody else's story, makes us better people now, so that the next generation that's coming up, we can stop and listen to them. We can live by example, and they can sit there and just sometimes just having someone to say, hey, you know what, you're doing a good job. That's all people need, and we understand it. Scott in the chat room said it's practically the opposite. We are not slim enough, or our teeth are not white enough, or we're not rich enough. Therefore, we not enough gets drilled into us from all outside sources. That's very true.
That's
it's true that
absolutely true.
Everything you see on TV is all about, you could be slimmer. You could, somebody asked me to describe myself, and I went, Jessica Rabbit with more curves. It's how I see myself. Some people might say, she's a little pudgy, and okay, I'm pudgy, but I think of myself as Jessica Rabbit with curves and a whole lot of brains, just like she had it. So you have to see yourself for yourself. See yourself through your eyes, not through somebody else's eyes.
Right.
Accept and appreciate who you are. And some people don't get it. They will never get it unless there's somebody to show them that, to shine that light, to say, hello, look, Sheila's there. She's kicking ass. Scott says God gave him extra airbags because he's special and he loves it. Very special.
That's like Gabriel voices. He says, "I'm not fat. I'm fluffy." That's how I feel right now. I'm fluffy.
You're fluffy.
But see, like I grew up in there. My grandmother was very, very old school and taught my mom old school. We were raised, kids were to be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went somewhere, we were on our best behavior, or we got our butts beat.
Yep.
And today, you can't even talk to your kids sternly without getting chewed out about it.
Yeah.
There's a point of being respectful and teaching your kids manners.
Yeah.
And then just having kids that are out of control. And I know when I was my kids are like 7 years apart, so they're like spaced out. I have a 27-year-old, I have a 20-year-old, and I have a 13-year-old.
Oh, God bless you, woman.
I know. I'm like, this 13-year-old's about to kill me. But anyways, everybody who meets my children, because I taught my children to be very, very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught my kids to give and not receive.
Yeah.
They don't expect things. It's not like, oh, I have to have. My kids, we can go into a store, and if I offer to buy them something, they're like, no, Mom, we don't need that. And it's like, no, I'm going to buy it for you. They don't stand in the store and stomp their feet and throw a fit. It just doesn't happen.
That's funny you said that. I saw a video on Facebook one time about this child who was taking things off the shelf, and the mother's going, no, put it back, and he started to have a pissy fit. He had, as I call it, all out red-headed temper tantrum right there in the middle of the floor of the shopping mall, and the mother looked at him and looked around at all the people, giving her this disgusted look of, oh my God, can't you control your child? So the mother just laid down on the floor and had an all-out red-headed temper tantrum, and the kid was so shocked that he stopped, stood up, and looked at his mother and goes, Mom, what are you doing? And it was over. She goes, oh, I had a moment. And that was the end of it. And the kid was like so stunned he stopped being a little brat. But kids these days are brought up with with feeling privileged. A lot of them feel privileged, and they feel that
Yes.
they can, my mom can't do a thing, my dad can't do a thing. I'll call Child Protective Services or whatever the heck it is. And
Right.
I was on a show the other night. I was at a show the other night, and they said, maybe they should repeal the law about physically punishing your child. And I said, and this person was saying, I would like that to be repealed. And I said, no, you can't. I said, because 99% of the world will give their child, or we'll say 80% of the world, will give their child that one swat on the behind or the clip upside the head or something. And that'll be enough to get them to sort of like, hello, I'm done. Or lay in the middle of the floor at the supermarket and do the same damn thing that your temperature of your child's doing. But there are that percentage of people who will take it to the next level, to abuse. And so
Yeah.
for those 20% that are being abused, and I know I'm just using those numbers, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but for that percentage that are being abused, it needs to stay.
Yeah.
And kids need to be listened to and heard.
Mhm. Well, it's just like my grandson. A couple of years ago, when my daughter was getting ready to she was pregnant with my granddaughter, and she was trying to was she still pregnant with Nora? Was Nora born yet? I don't remember. But anyways, it was around the time Nora was coming, and we were at JCPenney's, and she was trying to get another suitcase because they were going to fly back to Germany, because her and her husband were stationed in Germany, and after the baby was born, they were going to fly back. So we were at JCPenney's because they had suitcases on sale. And so my grandson was just having a pitchy fit. He'd been with his other grandmother who spoils him, and when he's around the other grandmother, I'm serious, I don't know, he's just like, words can't describe it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he was in the store just throwing a fit and, whining and crying, and my daughter's she's trying to buy this suitcase, and she's exhausted. And I said, give me your car keys. She goes, Mom, what are you going to do? I said, nothing. I said, me and Corbin are going to go sit in the car. She goes, Mom, I said, no, you finish what you're doing. Me and him are going to go sit in the car. So I take him by the hand, and he looks at me like, oh, man, what did I just do? Because he had never been taken to the car. And that's what I used to do with my kids. If you're going to go fit, we're going to go sit in the car.
Yeah.
So we went and got in the car, and I put him in his car seat, and I told him, I said, we don't act like that. You embarrassed your mama, And I said, you need to quit that crying and stuff and straighten up. And I put him in his car seat, and he's huffing and puffing, and I get in the car, and we sit there, and we wait, and she comes out and gets in the car, and she goes, he comes, or she gets in the car, and he, goes, Mom, and she goes, what? And he goes, I'm really sorry for embarrassing you. I didn't mean to. And she just started crying. And she goes, what did you say to him? I said, I told him that he embarrassed you, and that was no way to act. And she goes, oh. And I said, I didn't do it hatefully or anything. I just told him, we don't act that way.
Yeah.
And
you have to talk to kids on an even level. You can't talk down to them, and you can't baby them as much as, even a child these days of 5 years old still has more sense than we give them credit for. So, talk to them like on the level.
And that's what she had been doing. She had been babying him, and it was just like, you need to talk to him like I talked to you when you were little. I didn't talk to you like a baby. I treated you like an adult.
Yeah.
He's a kid, but you still have to, treat them in an adult manner.
It's just a form of respect. When there's times to treat children like children, and have the fun and slide in the, oh God, I'm going to say the word snow, and go swimming in the water or whatever the case may be, and to have fun with them. But there's also a time when your children need that guidance, when people need that guidance, and if you haven't learned, if you were never spoken to properly,
Absolutely.
like a normal human being, other than just oh, come here, little Johnny. Mama's going to give you the now. So my kids know better than that. If I start talking like that, they run the other way.
Yeah.
That's good. What's in the chat? Cheryl says, but what we put out there is usually what comes back to us. Not maybe, but not always. But we still need to be ourselves and treat others the way we want to be treated. Exactly. If you want someone to be nice to you, you be nice to them. Because you don't know if that person's been having a pissy ass day, that your smile, your hello, your, whatever the comment that you make, that could be the moment that turns their switch and makes them stop and go, hey, I'm being an ass. Let me straighten up and fly right, whatever the case may be. Scott says, we were meeting mother-in-law in a tea shop in town. Eldest daughter had a hissy fit and was told 3 times to behave. Didn't. I carried her back through town like a sack of potatoes, screaming and wailing like a banshee. Back to the car. She sat there and sobbed for 15 minutes. It broke my heart, but I solved the behavioral forever. Nearly. Yeah, she's your daughter. She's going to have a hissy fit.
Yep.
Scott says, throw chocolate up and make him
chocolate. Yeah.
That's what he tries to do when I get serious with him. He just sits there, throws chocolate and backs away very slowly.
But yeah, we need to, and that's one of the problems kids are facing, or parents are facing right now, is they're so, they either want to they want to be like helicopter mom. They want to overprotective of their kids, and they want to do everything for their kids. But you have to let kids be kids. They've got to be able to, because when you're not around, when you die, they're not going to be able to function as an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to give them discernment. And if your child doesn't have discernment, then they do not know how to function.
Exactly. And the thing is, this was a conversation, again, on that same radio station that I listened to the other day, radio show, about the tragedy in Florida. And not negating what that guy did and not forgiving what he did, but there's also extenuating circumstances in his life that nobody listened to him. Nobody listened to all the cries of help, stupid cries of help that even the FBI seemed to be like, duh. Sorry guys from the FBI if you watch me, love you anyway. But they had that momentary doneness, but and I don't think anybody could have changed, what happened to a great extent. To maybe, people wouldn't have died, but if they had just seen what was going on, and he figured that, I don't know what the hell he was figuring, but I'm thinking that maybe he figured that was his only way to get the attention that he wanted. Man, you know how some kids, they don't give a shit, they don't give a damn whether it's negative or positive attention, they want that attention. So absolutely. I think, unfortunately, he went that route. So, I mean, my prayers and love goes out to everybody who's been affected in a Florida shooting and everybody else that's ever been affected in this kind of stuff. But you know what? We're kind of sort of really went away from who you are in not really a lot, but just in the respect that you have allowed your story to be out there so that it shows other people. Because what you went through, somebody may not be able to go through, and it may turn them into, an angry person. Because they always used to say, abusers were always abused. Well, we can stop that pattern by listening to the person who gets,
Well, and, like I said, I came from a family of 5. There was 5 kids. Mm-hmm. I had 3 older siblings from a previous marriage that my mother had. And then there was me and my little brother. But what's kind of funny is my mom and my dad were high school sweethearts.
Okay.
My mom and dad my dad went into the military at 15. And he went in the military so that he could take care of my mom and give her a better life. Because my mom, my grandmother was very neglectful. Mm-hmm. And so my mom had been in and out of foster care. And so my dad went into the military so that he could provide for her.
Yeah.
Well, while he was away at boot camp, my grandmother married my mother off to a man that was 28 years old. Because they were getting ready to put her in foster care again. So when my mom divorced that gentleman, she had 3 children, and so my dad kind of had already done a couple of tours in Vietnam, and he already had the mindset, that he didn't care for my older brothers and sister, my siblings. And he kind of took it out on them, that.
Yeah, well, you also have to admit that, unfortunately, he did a great service for his country, but people get changed during war. I've got a few friends that have been through it, and I see the changes in it. So I can just, barely imagine what happened to your dad. You said he went to war at 15. That's in the ages that minds are shaped and created,
Yeah.
If you haven't had the greatest at the beginning, that is that's major time.
Yeah, and my dad was a Green Beret, and he was a staff sergeant, so he was a pretty, the white glove inspections in our home. I remember those. But so my older siblings, my oldest brother, who's 10 years older than me, kind of lives his life in denial. I've not had a relationship because, me and his wife don't get along, because it's jealousy. She didn't care for the relationship my brother had with me, which that's fine. That's his wife. I'm not going to have him choose his wife over his sister. It's just not going to happen. And my oldest sister, come to find out, my father was abusing her and had abused other girls when we lived in Germany before we moved back to the States, which I didn't find out that until I was an adult, and which kind of made me mad because I thought, if my mom knew he was doing this stuff, why did she continue us to, go visit? And in her defense, she said, well, I didn't think he would do it to his own child, So I kind of had, I kind of put the blame on my mom for a long time, and I had to let that go. But my sister, she had a nervous breakdown, and she's not in her right mental state, and I don't have a relationship with her. It's not healthy for me to be around her because I'm an empath, and she's done a lot of stuff that just, it tears at my heart and my emotions, and I just can't emotionally deal with it. And then my middle brother, Jerry, who's the youngest of the older 3 kids, we're 7 years apart, and he was an alcoholic from the time he was 13. And he died on the day of my daughter's first birthday. He drank himself to death. And I had already put him in rehab twice for drugs and alcohol. And he didn't want the help, and you can't help somebody that doesn't want help. So I had all these things going on, and I was seeing how people were, how all of this was affecting my family and my siblings. And I had it in my head, I'm not going to allow this to affect me that way. I'm not going to allow this to take who I am. I'm not going to allow it to crush my soul. I'm just not going to do it. I know I've had 2 or 3 psychiatrists that, who told me point blank, you have gone through enough trauma in your life that 9 times out of 10 people who have gone through what you have committed suicide. And to me, that's just not the answer. I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm going to be the person that makes the difference. And that's the whole reason for me to do what, I'm doing, and I have, and I have my baby brother who I raised, and he'll tell you that I raised him because my mom was just not there. She checked out. and we don't have the relationship that we used to. And it's because we just kind of grew apart, which is sad.
Yeah.
You know, and I think siblings nowadays, they need to be there for each other. The family unit needs to be able to learn to forgive and to be supportive of each other. Family needs to support each other. We need to focus on our younger generation. I mean, my 13-year-old watches YouTube videos, and some of the stuff that those kids are putting out there is absolutely appalling.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some of the stuff, but the thing is, you're involved in his life. You know, you can't demand that he not see these things. But when he does it, if he has questions,
yeah.
But if he has you're not allowing, but you're at least sort of regulating as to the stuff that gets added to it. Because there's so much out there that's negative that affects our kids, that affects in little ways and in big ways. But if parents, and it's not only just parents, but like aunts and uncles and family members, sometimes we can't, I can't get along with my own kids. So they'll go to their aunt, or they'll go to somebody, how when your kids were little and were growing up, well, for me anyway, my kids had these friends that they couldn't talk to their parents, but they could talk to me, and I was just there. Okay, I listened. I gave them, I showed them both sides of what could happen if they do this and what could happen if they could do that. But they're the ones who had to make the decision. There was no great negative shit going on, but I just had to be there for them to get that,
Yeah, that's like with my relationship with my kids. My kids are my best friends. I'm still mom, but we still go do things and act, I act like I'm 20 and I'm not. I'm 47, But, my 13-year-old, like we were talking about the stuff on YouTube, I've taught her discernment.
she's got her halfway made. She's a girl. There we go. If it was a boy, I'd say you lost. Sorry.
No, it's a girl. No, the oldest and the youngest are girls, and the boy's in the middle, and he's like, has middle child
syndrome.
It's hilarious.
But you know what? Middle childs, we turn out pretty good. I'm a middle child, so I turned out pretty good. Just don't listen to Scott. Oh, shut up, Scott. I knew you were going to put that in.
Those are the worst. How funny.
Cheryl in the chat room says, yeah, when my kids were little, they put mud pies on the menu, whether we liked it or not. Now they do this Tide Pod thing, and I still haven't figured that shit out. And the what was that thing? The cinnamon. It's got no taste to it. It's nasty. Why the fuck are you going to, excuse me, but why the hell are you going to eat that shit on a challenge? Seriously.
Well, and, like I was thinking today, when we were kids, it was Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Space Invaders, and going roller skating and riding your bikes outside and going, camping with your family. Family time was very, very important and very precious.
Yeah.
And nowadays, these kids are playing these video games where they're killing each other, and movies are violent. I mean, I can't get through a movie without literally getting sick. I have to leave.
Yeah.
And TV shows are the same thing. These kids are being fed that violence is okay, and that, that it's no filter, that it's not reality.
Yeah, but you know what? Okay, things are getting more and more. It's like a repeat show. Things get more and more crazy, but you got to remember that a lot of parents don't pay enough attention to what their kids watch.
Right,
and
that's what I'm talking about.
They just use the babysitters. So if you just like, okay, little Scotty's all finished with the Pac-Man thing, I'll go get him this one, and you keep, as parents, as much as we want, we give them with the best intentions, we give them games to keep them occupied, but then you wonder why they can't talk to you because you're not going as fast as what it is on the TV that's going, and I don't think
Right.
God was ever anywhere near good.
Well,
So.
right. Well, right, and then these parents are keeping these kids occupied with all this electronic stuff because they're too busy trying to keep up with Facebook. The family unit has dissipated.
Yeah, but also a lot of parents, you have two parents that have to work. I know that when my kids were young, I worked the day shift and my husband worked the night shift, so there was never any reason for us to put our kids into daycare or stuff like that. But it's we were able to make it because you have to have two incomes, and unfortunately,
Absolutely.
some families, no matter how hard they try, single families especially, but no matter how hard they try, they can't do it. And as much as they say that daycare now is like low rates, it's not like $7 a day. You add that up, that's still a near fortune to somebody who's got a one income family. So we.
Absolutely. I mean, my husband worked 3 jobs and I worked 2. I cut hair and then waited tables. But you know what? I took my baby with me to work and sat her down beside me and cut hair.
Oh God, I would never bring my child to work.
Well, and it's just, you do what you have to do to pay your bills, but then you also you've got to take some quality time to be a parent. To be. I don't mean it in a bad way. You know what I'm saying? How would you say it? These kids they're needing some love and they're needing someone to be there for. I mean, if it can't be a parent that's in the home that doesn't want to be that parent, then we need aunts and uncles or neighbors and friends and mentors at schools to step up. And you see a kid in need and trouble, step up and be that shut-in mentor.
Yeah.
That's my point I'm trying to make, and I know it's probably coming out the wrong way, but
No.
I don't mean it. I don't mean it with the worst intentions. Please don't take it that way.
No. We're about helping, and we can come up with 1,001 ideas, but it takes people to put it into action. And if we don't put the ideas out there, that people won't understand what to do.
Well, and yeah, that's like when I was a kid. Our block, on our block, we all knew each other, and if any of the kids were outside, there was at least 2 parents out watching us.
Yeah.
And when the neighbor's mom or the neighbor said, "Hey, you need to quit doing that," we did. We respected the neighbors because that neighbor was going to go tell my mama what I was doing, and then I was going to get in worse trouble. And nowadays, these kids that you tell them to do something, if they're out tearing your stuff up, they just look at you and continue doing it and laugh at you and go on. And you're like, oh my gosh.
But again, it's those kids that don't get shown respect. Where I work right across the street from a private school, and I work in a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always in a good mood. No one ever sees Darlene in a bad mood. Darlene's always smiling, always happy, because I don't leave whatever shit I have at home stays at home. It doesn't come to my job.
Absolutely.
So when these kids come in, they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" "I'm going good." And I pick on them and I talk to them about their graduations that are coming up or whatever, And one year I had this young man who for the entire year, he would throw whatever it was he was buying at me and then throw his money at me. And I let it go on and let it go on. And I have patience of a goddess. Hello, this is a redhead here. I got patience, And at the last week of school, he came in and he did the same damn thing. And I said, okay, to myself, okay, it's time. So he had like $4 in change. And I was like, yeah, this is perfect. So I just threw the money at him. It slid onto the floor. I threw back his cakes that he had bought or whatever it was that he bought. And he looked at me, says like, he used some very colorful language. I went, You've been doing it to me all year long. I think as a nice going away gift, since you think it seems to be such fun to do, I'd give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sort of, it stopped him in his tracks. He didn't say a word and he left. He came back the next year and, cause that was like year end. He came back the next year for his last year. And the first thing he did, first day of school, he came in and he apologized to me. And he
Yep.
said, I was an ass. And I went, yep, you were. I said, but it doesn't stop me from liking you. You just had your stupid ass moments. And of course, he was a boy, so that didn't help either. But, so yeah. In the chat room, Scott says another problem is that we have created a society where it is the most unwise to comfort, help, spend time with the child because instantly rumors start and suspicious eyes turn towards that person.
Absolutely.
Especially if they are male. I worked as a youth worker and could not touch or hug a crying child. Many times I stood with my hands in a plait, calling for a female worker, whilst the child who had fallen or come to me for a hug was wrapped around my legs. As a father, I wanted to hold him and reassure them, but I really couldn't.
Yes.
Very,
And
very
it's sad that we're in a society like that.
And it is, and it's unfortunately thanks to that small percentage of people who abuse children,
Right.
but unfortunately it's out there, and as much as we'd like to, help a kid and do the best that we can, it's sometimes even children don't want to be touched,
Mm-hmm.
and it just it irks them, like there was a young kid one time came into the store. She was autistic and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, and people were looking at me going, can that mother shut that child up? But there was a difference the way she was screaming. It wasn't just like, a hissy temper tantrum type of thing. So I
Yeah.
just let it go, and this was the summertime, and the mother came up. She goes, I'm sorry for my daughter, but she's autistic. And I said, why are you apologizing? She's singing, right? And I made the
Mm-hmm.
mother feel comfortable. I don't know what the child was doing, but I just said, she's singing. She's filling her lungs with the air, and she's letting the rest of us hear the beautiful music that she makes. And the woman was like, oh my God, thank you. What for? I
Yeah.
said, I don't lie. It's a waste of my time to lie. So my truth is, your child is singing. And I had, where we live, we're farm country. So the farmers came by and we had a basket of strawberries. And I asked the mother, I said, can I give her a strawberry? And she goes, she doesn't really like a lot of people and she doesn't like people to touch her, I said, can I try? And she said, sure. So I went around the counter and I had this giant strawberry in my hand. And I looked at her and I said, I have a surprise for you. And I just held my hand out, just kind of like when we were kids and taught how to feed a horse. It was just in the center of your hand so that there was nothing around it but this big, beautiful strawberry. And she looked at it and she looked at her mother and her mother smiled and shook her head. She looked at the strawberry and she looked at me and she just snatched it from my hand and ran. Like she didn't touch me. I could barely feel it move, but she was hiding in the corner and she was eating the strawberry and just glowing. And it was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had kids. God, I've had kids. And, but this was the moment that I thought that perfect little munchkin has been put here just for this moment in time. I sort of took it personal, like.
Well, and that kind of reminds me of when I used to do hair. I used to work in a shop where 90% of the hairdressers hated cutting kids' hair. Absolutely hated. And every time a walk-in would come in with a little kid, I got stuck with it, which I didn't care because I had little ones and because when you're cutting a little kid's hair, the hairdressers just, they're like, well, they wiggle too much and, I can't get them to sit still. Well, you know what? If you get the kid's attention, get them occupied, sit and talk to them and discuss what you're going to do, they're not scared of it.
Yeah, no.
You make a game out of it, and I never had one problem with ever cutting a kid's hair. Now, there was a couple of times we had to sit the kid on the mom's lap while I cut the hair.
Yeah.
But, give them the water bottle. Let them squirt you, Do whatever you need to make them calm and serene. So I know exactly what you're saying. And like the food thing, when I waited tables, we have a special needs school here in Tulsa. And they would come in like every other Wednesday for lunch, and they would bring in all of their adult special needs. And there'd be about 30 of them, and we'd set them all up, and we're feeding them. And we would just have customers come in and just be rude and saying how we rent their lunch hour and how they would never come back in there and eat again. And it just would just break your heart,
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, that was just kind of off the subject, but,
No, that's cool.
So.
Scott, this is what? Blue steak. Okay, I don't know. Forget it. Can't pay attention to Scott sometimes in the chat room. He just confuses me. I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'm squinting too much. But
Blue steak, wait at the Barbie, and then eat.
I don't know, because Cheryl's making barbecue burgers for us all.
Oh, okay. I was like,
right,
what?
Cheryl? You have enough for everybody, the whole room, right?
Yeah. But anyways, so.
Bye, I love you.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. But yeah, no, we have to, the whole thing is that your story is as awful and as heart-wrenching as it is. It made you the awesome person that you are, that you can connect to so many more people in so many other different levels than, everybody has a different way of doing things. Everyone has a different way of being, and yours is your way, So, and I know that that's what you want to do, is you want to help people, but with coaching and just listening. Now, I know I do have, we're at the top of the first hour, bottom of the first hour, whatever there's my technical issues with there. Hold on a second. I'm going to post, copy. So well prepared, Darlene. Yeah, not. That's okay. That's why I am my own boss, because everybody would get on my nerves, tell me what I was supposed to do and not do. It's like, nah. Yeah. Okay, in the chat room is the connection for your Facebook page, and the connection, the link to your Facebook page, and the link to your website.
Right.
One of the things that I can't find the notes I took. Again, what can I say? Hey, Fellini. So you do readings as well. Now, one of the things you did mention, and I want to get back to this, brain fart. You met people through channeling Eric.
Right.
Now I've had a couple of guests on here who work with Eric as well, and so
Eric is hilarious. He is like, if you haven't had the chance yet to go to channelingeric.com, read his story. He is a spirit that has crossed over, and his mom, Elise Meadows, is a doctor, and she found her son had shot himself, and she wrote a book about how she became a believer, because Eric kept visiting her after his death, and she was raised atheist. And I became a part of the Channeling Eric community when I was having problems with my son. My son was running away. He was bipolar, and so he was running away. His grandmother and his grandfather had just passed away. He was having a hard time dealing with it. I was doing everything I could as a mom to be there for him, but I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I mean, I felt like as a mom I was doing something wrong. There was something I wasn't doing right, And so I was praying about it and everything, and my mother-in-law, who has passed over, is one of my spirit guides, and she had guided me to channelingerich.com. And so I had gotten in touch with a couple of mediums, and they told me where my son was, told me that he was okay and that he was coming home. And every time something happened, Erich has always been there in our family. He's physically showed up to my son. He's a clown. He likes to turn music on and off. He likes to set the fire alarm off in the middle of the night.
Oh, lovely.
So Erich has pushed me a lot into doing what I'm doing. I run the Channeling Erich store.
Okay.
And I do all the designs for the T-shirts and outerwear. I also am I was asked to take over the Channeling Erich Medium's website, so we're redoing that. And I'm also one of the moderators or admins to the Facebook page for the blog and for the Medium page. But
Okay.
there is a ton of mediums on there, and they're amazing people.
Well, the most important person in that channeling Erich that I would love to have a sit down conversation is with Erich's mom, but I know she's just she's on vacation. I'm paying attention. She's on vacation and she's taking these, she's moving around here and there. But if you get to talk to her, you tell her that I would like to have a sit down conversation
Absolutely.
on my show, telling me about her son, because the little bits and pieces that we have gotten from the different people who work with Erich, and the different pieces that I've gotten online, watching YouTube videos, he's a very interesting Erich. We know about Erichs. We have one who's usually here, different spelling. Your Erich is spelled with a K, and ours is spelled with a C.
Yes.
And my Erich's spirit guide seems to get along really well with your Erich.
Well, Erich he's a mess. I mean, he's blunt and kind of out there, and he says how he feels, and he doesn't sugarcoat anything. But his mission is to teach light and love, and he has gotten a movement going to get everybody to really focus on that inner light that's in you, and how to use your, because we all have psychic abilities. We all have mediumship. We all have some kind of connection with the other side, the veil. And it's up to us to learn how to use those. Yep. And I have some gifts. I can read cards. I have an intuition. I just know things.
Okay.
I have things will just come to me, and I just know it, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
I will have vivid dreams, and then they happen. I know when somebody's going to call me. I know when someone's going to show up. So, I mean, we all have that within us. We just have to be able to tune into the vibration of it. And it's all about, vibration.
Yes.
So,
yes,
sorry,
it is.
I didn't mean to go on a little rant about Erich. But Erich is so cool. And, and I'm not trying to, give him praise, but I do appreciate him being one of my guides and really helping me.
Yeah, Erich seems to be a busy young man. He was interesting when he was over here, and he seems to be a whole lot more interesting over on the other side. But yeah, so I like the fact that, Erich is out there and he's helping, and it's making a connection that helps. He seems to help everybody when y'all seem to find Erich just when you need him, when think you're at your lowest point. Eric seems to pop into your lives, and he's doing an amazing
Mm-hmm.
job. Steve Scott in the chat room says, Sheila, are your children all spiritually aware as well?
My son is very spiritually aware. He's always kind of saw things, but he chooses not to. He because he's bipolar, he has a hard time understanding the difference between. I guess is what you want to say. He hasn't learned to let go yet and to go with the flow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it does, because some people just want to have that control. They want to be able to,
Right.
this is going to happen my way and only my way. This is the way I want it. This is going to happen. And unfortunately, as my Eric said earlier, spirit comes to you and opens itself up to you when it's ready, when it thinks you're ready. I'll be over, Gemini, just after I go to Cheryl's. Thanks for coming, sweetie. But spirit lets us in. Doesn't let us in. Spirits realizes that, as much as it bangs its head against what we are as the brick wall, that eventually we have no choice but to listen. And spirit does show itself in the big ta-da, eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Just more often than not, we just don't stop and listen, stop and breathe and feel the little ta-das that happen.
Yeah. And my youngest, who's my 13-year-old, she has seen angels since she was 2 years old. She's very spiritual. And we don't discourage it. We encourage it, and we tell her, yes, that's what happened. That's what you see. Matter of fact, when she was 10 years old, or she was 9, she was just before she turned 10, we were watching this angel show that comes on like right before Long Island Medium came on. It was about this lady that spoke to angels, and we were watching the show. And we lived in a 2-story townhome, and my daughter went to bed, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I hear this noise, and I'm like, what was that? And I didn't think anything else of it, and the next thing I hear a kid screaming out the back door, and I open the door. My daughter fell out the window.
Oh, gosh.
And she was like 3 feet from hitting the concrete. She would have hit the concrete. It would have killed her.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter looked at me and she says, Mama, the angels grabbed me and sat me down. And we went to the hospital, and she had a busted sternum, a crack in her sternum, and that was the only injury that child had on her. And she will tell everybody, she says, the angels sat me on the ground that night. And I believe in my heart that if we hadn't have been watching that show, we were watching that show for a reason, know. So, yeah.
I'm going to check something here. Scott, I'm going to unmute all 3 of you, and one of you better talk to me and tell me which one you are, because I get to kick the 3. The first one is, say it again. Say it. There we go. Okay, found it. Don't need to hear your sexy voice, okay, because you just try and confuse me. Okay, you're still there, right, Scott?
Yes, dear. I'm still here.
There you go. Okay, cool. Meeting you now. It was fun. Brian should have been here. I got to kick Scott out of my room twice, and he didn't even feel a thing. Yee-haw.
What you kicking him out for?
Well, he had to sign out and sign back in. Something was wrong. Then he was in the chat room 3 times. I'm like, that's confusing to me. I'm gonna have a blonde moment and go, oh. Sorry if anybody was blonde, but
So, that's kind of like me in a nutshell. I mean, if anybody has questions or anything they want to ask, or if you want to open the floor up, you're more than welcome to.
Well, everybody knows how this works in here. The chat room, if you get a question, you can mic up, you can put your hand up, you can type a question in capital letters, preferably, so that I can pay attention to it and not see something shiny over there, make my eyes. Yeah, they don't wait for invites here. People chime up and. So let's get to this. You have started your own show, and oh gosh, I wrote it down, wrong page.
And the first 2 shows have been disastrous. and I'll be honest to say that I've had technical issues.
Well,
and
it happens.
yeah, and I think a lot of it is because I brought in a lot of negative energy going into it, thinking, I'm going to have problems, and then I wound up having problems. Does that make sense?
Well, in a way it does, but it's also they happen so that you learn how to deal with them. The very, very first show I did, it wasn't on this network, it was on another network, and very first show I did, my chat room crashed. And luckily, I was working with a really awesome producer, and he was able to just say, don't worry, it's just the chat room that crashed. Your guest is still here. We're still live. Just, go with it. So I did. And to go to find out that my daughter and her best friends were listening in through their Apple phone. And they put in an emoji that crashed the chat room. So, and during that show, aside from my guest, who was a really good friend of mine, because she was, I wanted the first show to be with somebody who I was really comfortable with in case I crashed and burned. And we had a good laugh over it. And when my producer told me what happened, I went, oop, that was my children who did that. So, things happen so that you learn how to, you learn how to deal with them.
Right.
And if it's a major issue, my awesome wizard of IntuiTalks, Jenny, is always around to just sort of say, hey, this is what happened. And she may not be around at that moment in time, because I like to say about her, she does have a life. Even though some people think that she should be there 24/7, but hey, people have lives. So she has a life, and she does get back to you always. She's, even if she's not there at the moment, you just send her a message and go, such and such happened. What's happening? And even here a couple of times we've had sound issues. So it's kind of like scraggly and raggedy. But
that's what my problem was with sound issues. I was logging in on my computer, and my internet would kick in and out, so then it would mess it all up. Yeah. So I'm just gonna log in on my phone and do it that way.
Exactly, until things settle down, and everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
I mean, look here, you've been in the chat room the whole time. You haven't logged out, and you're still talking on your phone. So it's cool.
Yeah, and then Thursday and Friday, as you can tell, my voice is getting real raspy. I woke up and I couldn't speak. I didn't have a voice. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work,
Well, maybe it just wasn't time for you to start it at that moment in time.
Yeah, well, I have a growth growing, and I have a growth in my throat, which I need to go and have surgically removed. And so it was just, it's causing blockage, so it causes problems with my voice. So, but once I get it out, I'm hoping I'll be back 100% normal. So,
well, I think that's what your message is. That's why your show didn't work properly. Why you have glitches is because you have to take care of, what was it you said?
Yeah.
Take care of yourself first before everybody else can be helped by you.
Yes.
So you need to go take care of that little thing in the throat, make sure everything is good and back to 100%. And when you do start back up again, just let me know, and I will share the hoo-ha out of your show so that it can be shown all over Facebook.
Yeah, and it'll be called Morning Coffee and Me, and it's just going to be like a little daily kind of inspirational, get your day started kind of deal. Just to get everybody motivated, and if you want to sit and cry on my shoulder and you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. What you do is, I remember when I spoke to you about the show, you said you wanted to have it in the morning for moms, like after the kids got off to schools, and for those moms who just had like got the little munchkins off. Now it's my time.
Yes.
So this is where moms can come in, and if they want to just talk, about what's going on, and ask your opinion, because you're a mom. So all moms, we are experienced pros. Dads, not so much.
And it's not just for moms. We have stay-at-home dads. Aunts, uncles, dog parents. I'm not, it's not for one gender and not the rest.
species. It's for all species.
Yeah. But I did.
I just go ahead.
Oh, and I had some amazing lady from England pop
Okay.
in. Her name was Kathy. I can't remember it. You'll have to go and look on the chat thing.
Okay.
But she was telling me how to. I think so.
Yes.
Anyway,
Okay.
she was telling me how to open up the deal so that I could see my callers and stuff. Because I was like, I don't know. I was thankful for their help. And then another gentleman came in that was a publisher. Yeah, so he was really sweet.
Robert.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. That's the thing about this IntuiTalks family. You know, we will as much as we can, we support each other's shows, you know, and both of the people that you had are like awesome people. I've had them in my shows, I've been to their shows. But Linz and Rihanna are from Kathy's Disenecos, and they have, I believe it's every Thursday, but I could be wrong. They have an amazing angel show. If you get a chance to go listen to them, you should do that too. But yeah, things happen for a reason. You know, it's probably, like I said, for me, my take on it is that right now the show is not going to happen until you make sure that you are 100%. You know.
Right, and I have had a lot of support the last couple weeks. You know, because I'm trying to get all my stuff done and get my ducks in a row so I can help people. And I've had some medical stuff come up, and everybody's like, Sheila, stop. You've got to take care of yourself first. You can't help anybody if your vessel's broke. And I'm the type of person, but what if that person needs me today and I'm not there? Yeah. And it's like, well, you can't be there if you're not there 100%.
But here's the thing. So, how many times do you tell that to other people? How many times do you tell that to people that say you need to focus on yourself?
I tell them to them all day long.
And as Scott says in the chat room, if you're not there, they will find somebody else.
I know.
And you have to know that if you want to be there to help all these people and to help your kids and to help your grandbabies, and you know, you got to help yourself.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Ask pretty much anybody in the chat room. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there going, okay, I'm not good. Well, okay, mostly Scott hears me whine and whinge the most. You know, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't be there for anybody else, let alone ourselves. You know, you've got to do what you need to do. And if people don't understand, then they're not meant to be in your life.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's like, yeah, not a problem. And Cheryl in the chat says, if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't be at your best, and that can be an even bigger toll. Yes, that could. Exactly. If you can't run on a car without the gas, so why are you going to use your vehicle without the gas that it needs?
Yep. Absolutely.
I work at a gas station, so I know what it's like to see people having to get their trucks towed and their cars towed. So I don't want to have to hear about you getting your body towed back to the hospital. So get your ass in gear one.
Well, and you know what? I thought I was done with the hospital. You know, I spent 2 years ago, I spent 193 days in the hospital and had 7 surgeries. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to have any more surgeries. You know, so I keep thinking, you know, maybe it'll just kind of go away on its own, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, you can't wait for it to go away on its own. Then you're waiting too long. Woman, get your ass to the hospital.
Yes, I know. So anyway, so my plans are to do what I can, and then I'm headed to the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona, to see an endocrinologist to find, because I have a mass in my thyroid that's been growing for 7 years. And they've just been kind of watching it. And when they found it, they told me it was cancer, but they've never biopsied it. And now it's taking over my throat. And the doctors here, because I live in Oklahoma, we have the worst health care. And the doctors don't want to be sued for malpractice. And then the state insurance, the state health care doesn't pay for cancer treatment or testing. So all it's self-pay. So I'm tired of being passed from one doctor to the next doctor saying, we're just going to watch it. I'm just going to go to the Mayo Clinic, have them take care of it, have them remove it. Because the last CT scan I had the other day, the technician told me that when they gave me the contrast to do the CT scan, that I lit up like a Christmas tree. So,
as pretty as a Christmas tree is, I'm thinking that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. And but you can't get doctors to tell you anything other than you need to go see a specialist and have an MRI done.
And get it done. And
so.
And I know the healthcare system in the States is not all it's cracked up to be. No healthcare system is all it's cracked up to be. We have to do the best with what we have. But if they keep passing you on to doctors, keep going to them doctors. Don't give up, because it's irritating and inattentive to have to go to, and I'm talking from experience, not my personal ones, but somebody else that I know and love just sort of gave up for a year and said, no, screw it. I'll wait. It'll pass. I'll take my pills. I'll do what I got to do, to the point where when I finally got that person to the hospital, the doctors were amazed that they were still alive, because everything they had just sort of let fly, and I was like, well, why didn't you go do what you had to do? I was tired of the blood tests. I was tired of being poked and prodded. It's like, well, now you're half dead. So hello. So stop being there for everybody else and go and be there for yourself. And Scott in the chat room says, and we as healers and empaths cannot find a way to isolate ourselves and renew. We will end up sick and no good for what others need either. We need to learn how to say, and I can only help you this much, or I only have this amount of energy for you. It's hard, which is true. We have a hard time saying the big ass word, no. And Scott is sending you some healing, as I'm sure everybody in the chat room is as well. And Scott says, yep, sometimes it's actually the best form of healing for that person is to be told no more from me, or not to have us buying their poor me thing. Because, some people, unfortunately, that no matter how hard you try, and I've been there, that no matter how hard you try to help this person, you're not the right person to help them, because they keep coming back, and not listening to your advice, your information, I had that once where somebody kept, but Mom, I need this, and what do I do here? And I kept giving the advice, and I was at that point, energy vampires, often unintentionally.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I said to the woman, I said, I can't help you anymore, because everything I've told you, you either ignore or just, do the complete opposite, and because it's not what you're ready for. So that means to me that I'm not the person that needs to help you. So I'm going to have to step back, and it was hard, because I don't like to say no. I don't like to see somebody hurt or whatever, but I've had to learn, and that it's, you need to step back and you need to focus.
Yeah.
That person will find the right person for them. And I know they have. I know that they have found somebody that's been able to help them, and I love watching the progress of her as she shines through. But you have to realize that not everybody is, as much as they want you to help them, not everybody is suited to be helped by you. That doesn't sound
right. No.
You know?
That's like when I was helping out the other day, a couple of weeks ago. On Blog Talk Radio, they had asked me to sit in, because one of the hostesses couldn't help, and so I sat in, and we had this caller that kept, we were all trying to be, helping her with her situation, but she was so closed-minded, she didn't want to hear it. She wanted us to tell her what she wanted to hear, but not what was really the truth and what was going on. And
And it's funny, it's when people come to you for a reading, come to me for a reading, and they say, because I don't do tarot cards, I don't predict the future for you. I give you the messages that the angels are giving me to give to you,
right,
and that's how it works.
absolutely.
And everybody says, all I tell them is to come with one question, because that one question could be the teeniest, tiniest thing on the bottom of your list, and everything else will come out during the reading. You have to be open to it.
Right.
But some people are just, they have the blinders on, and this is I just want to know if George will marry me. Well, George is an ass, so he's not going to marry me. But will he marry? But no, George is married already. But they're not hearing what you have to
Yep.
say. They're not seeing what you're putting on the table in front of them.
Yep. And that's exactly what she was doing. And finally, we just had to, say, well, we need to take the next caller. She wasn't too happy about it. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Them not listening and being vampires and yeah. People getting mad at me. I have a bullseye on me in 3D.
Well, we're going to cover that 3D bullseye with a bunch of butterflies. Somebody was very sweet to post onto my Facebook wall a beautiful, beautiful monarch frenzy. So all those butterflies that are in that little bubbly picture are going to cover that bullseye, and you could just tell people, go talk to Mama D. She'll kick your ass for me. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, so how is your throat feeling?
It's starting to feel better. It's not so raspy. I had a really, really good day. Kind of relaxed. But we had, temperatures here have been crazy. It's been cold. Like we had, it was like 35 and 32. And then, at night it was going to like 10 and 12 degrees at night. And then Thursday it got up to 81 degrees. So the weather has just been absolutely crazy. And we've not had any snow yet this year either.
I'll send you some. Gladly send you some. I've got at least 3 to 4 feet sitting outside my window over there. It's like, I don't need no more.
I think one day it kind of like flurried for about an hour, and then within 2 hours it was melted and gone.
Well, I had
that's all we had.
A friend of mine in the UK, I think it was last week before, did a video of the snow that was falling. They're going, look, Mama, look, it's snowing over here. And there was like this little thing that I could still see the ground and still see the asphalt and the cement going, that's not snow. And I posted a picture of my snow. And I went, that's snow. They were like, okay, fine.
Yeah. And see, that's what's crazy. I've lived here my whole life. I've lived here, since I was little, since I was like 6 or 7 years old in Oklahoma. And I remember when snow would be up past your hip here.
Yep.
And we've not had snow in 2 or 3 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The last time we had a good snow, we had that blizzard on Valentine's Day, which was in 2010 or 11, and that was it.
That's a nice time to have a blizzard on Valentine's Day. Cheryl says that she has a bad habit of speaking her mind. Well, I've never heard you say anything that doesn't make any sense, Cheryl, and I've been friends with you a short amount of time, but I think you're pretty smart and pretty on the ball. And it's better to be honest with yourself and others, and sometimes others want to live with illusions and they can get mad when reality doesn't match up. It's very, very true. Fellini has to disagree about using your own energy. We are not the healers using our energy to heal. We are the facilitating the energy to heal, because most don't know how to ask for it. The energy is out there. We are using it. One should not be tired after. I get what you're saying, Fellini, and Scott knows the same thing. I think it was just the way he put it.
Yes.
But some people don't understand that, and they think that I for those untrained, I had a friend who didn't last too long as a friend because she wouldn't listen to what I had to say. was that they would say, I would take their illness into me. And I was like, no, you don't do that. She goes, yeah, then I get rid of, no, you don't do that. You don't take in energy. You don't take away people's pain by taking it into you. You take it away or you help it to leave by flowing the energy that's out there into them. And it just, you do not, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me being an empath. I absorbed all the energy around me, which caused me to be very, very ill. And that's how my body kind of was shutting down. I mean, I'm not saying that was 100% of it, but I know a lot of it was because I wasn't learning how to let go, how to. So now, I mean, I didn't know how to put my protection, and bubble around me. So now, before I do anything, I meditate. I always ask for the energy that I need from the universe to get through. I don't want to use my energy because, I mean, if you do your own energy, like you said, you're going to be exhausted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can remember the very first time I did a healing here in my house. It was like the first time that I was on my own. And when the woman had gone, I messaged my Reiki master and I said to him, I feel so jazzed. He says, and he asked me to explain. And I said, it's just like whatever I gave her to help her heal still had to go through me. So I got as much healing as I gave, and it was like, it was just like stars and sparks and fireworks and all that fun shit. And that's what you should feel. To me, that's what you should feel, every day. But even more so when you're helping somebody, because then you're also helping. When you help yourself, you're also helping somebody else. And it's not. If you're taking somebody else's negative, you're taking their bad energy, but you're also taking whatever little good energy they have. So you just sort of flush it the other way instead of backwards.
Absolutely. But like they were talking about being in crowds and stuff, yeah, I'm the same way. I can't go into places where there's a lot of people. It's at first I just thought it was anxiety, that I had issues, from the abuse, you know what I'm talking about? Always looking for an exit way to get out, not sitting my back to the door, kind of paranoid stuff, but you just have to realize the way I was raised, you being stopped, wherever you went, you always kind of were aware of your surroundings. So I always thought that all that heightening stuff around me was because of the abuse, which actually it wasn't. It was because I was an empath. And I think that's why I kind of handle the things that have happened to me much better than a lot of people, because I'm an empath. So yeah, absolutely 100% with y'all about the shopping centers and like the movies. If I'm going to go to a movie, I'll make sure there's not a whole bunch of people in there. Yeah. So that's just
I think
me.
one of the things, which it's a show I'd like to do, and I think everybody needs it as a refresher, is to learn how to ground yourself. Listen to different ways it is to ground and protect yourself. I know that Scott in the chat room has built himself an adorable castle with the cutest, snuggliest little dragon there is. Okay, he's going to be pissed at me. But there's different ways of grounding and protecting yourself, and unfortunately some people don't get it, or they don't practice it enough, and they think, oh, okay, I'm done. It takes a while to learn how to. It doesn't actually take a while to learn how to do it, but it just takes a while to believe in yourself, to know that it's actually there. So so yeah. Okay, go ahead. You were saying?
That is horrible. But anyways, yeah, there's this amazing YouTube video. I'll find it and I'll send you the link. But it's this engineer, or actually he was a lineman working on the telephone wires and all of that, or the electrical wires. And he's talking about grounding with the earth and about how you need to take your shoes off and go outside and put your feet in the ground. And he has made some kind of device that he lays on his bed that hooks to the ground outside, so that when he sleeps, he's grounding.
Exactly. I saw that video. He was the one that inspired me to want to start a show specifically on that. And trust me, I'm planning on sending him a nice little email asking him if he wants to come on, because he's the inspiration. So what the heck, why not? Scott, I heard about a group of folks who did a paid entry workshop at psychic fairs, talking about healing, and said that one should never work with folk with cancer or AIDS because you may catch it. What the hell? Excuse my language. Catch it when you pull it from them. I was so angry to hear that. They toured the west of Scotland and down to England teaching that crap. And his castle has many defenses. But yeah, exactly. That was something that they did for money. And I'm not going to go into my feelings on that one because I'll go on a rant. Don't want me ranting.
Well, and that's crazy. You know, it's like when people think that they can get something from somebody for just being in the same room with them. It's crazy.
The thing is, when you're a healer, you have to have it in mind, and these people didn't. They had a closed mind. They had that one, and it's not, it's like AIDS was a gay man's disease, so you got to be gay to have it. No, it's people don't understand it, that everything. You have to have an open mind to be a healer, and if you believe like those twats did, then you shouldn't be healing. You shouldn't be teaching. But unfortunately, there are also people out there who will listen to that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's like, me being the moderator for Channeling Eric, the medium group. Mm-hmm. We have so many mediums that are not vented channeling Eric mediums. They're just mediums that are in the group. Mm-hmm. And they will post stuff that I know in their heart they believe it, mm-hmm. but it goes against the grain of what Eric teaches, and then they get upset because you don't post it, and then you're kind of mm-hmm. the way it comes across is offensive.
Yeah,
and it's because they're either new to it or the way they were taught was, I don't want to say incorrect, mm-hmm. But it doesn't. I mean, the energy that comes with it isn't in the right place. So yeah, there's a lot of people that say that they're healers or psychics and mediums and stuff who really aren't, and it's hurting the ones that are,
In every venue there is that is.
Yeah.
There's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's good cops,
Absolutely.
There's bad cops, there's good cashiers, there's bad cashiers, and you just have to, I'm assuming Channeling Eric's mediums site will weed out the ones that don't fit properly with how they work, and and if the person is insulted, well then, that's your choice. You can go anywhere, and mm-hmm. Make your own website, make your own,
Yes.
thing. So
sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that. Sorry.
No. Why is it people get this? This is your show. This gives you whatever you want to talk about. And like I said, I don't have. There's no one way that this show works. It just does. For me, it's a sit down conversation with a bunch of friends, and that's
absolutely
what I like,
Yes.
Cheryl in the chat room says it's hard to deal with those who have shut their minds from all possibilities. Worked for me. You ought to try it. I can't try it. I didn't get the percentage. I don't know. We'll talk.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of ego. People they're letting their ego go on a rampage with it. So yes, exactly, Scott. You hit it on the head with the ego.
Pretentious, ego-driven artists don't stay here long. Yeah, no. I've never, I have to be honest though, I've never had a pretentious, egotistical, arse-driven on my show.
That's good.
Except for Scott. And I like him, so I keep him. Well, you know what? It is 8:14. I'm going to make you go to bed because I think you need to rest. And
I appreciate it.
yes, and I thank you very, very much for being here and telling your story, sharing your story. And since Cheryl didn't give me my burger, I got to go make my own dang on food. But I do hope to have you back sometime. I usually like to wait some time, but I will have you back. And like I said, if you speak to Eric's mom, you let her know that I'm gonna come and send her a letter eventually when she calms down and settles down.
Absolutely. She's had a rough around his death in September, from September till the last couple of months. She's had a really, really rough time. She had a imposter approach her and said that he was channeling Eric and made a whole Facebook page and everything. And we did some background checking on him, and he wasn't who he said he was. So she's kind of recovering from that. So, but I will definitely to have her give you a ringing.
Yeah, well, just reach out when she's ready and free, and she wants to have a chit chat. I'd love to have a chit chat with her, and then we'll see where we go from there. But
Absolutely.
I need to thank you very much for coming on my show. I need to thank everybody who's in the chat room. Cheryl, Fellini, Scott, Eric, who was here, Brian, who was here, Gemini, who was here. Thank you very much. Cheryl, anytime, you're really, really welcome. And I really, really want to talk to you about maybe you being one of my guests, but we shall talk about that. I love you all, and I will see you next week when I have no idea who. I have a quiet week next week until I can rope somebody in, Scott, to being my guest. So I love you all very, very much, and I will see you next week. Night, everybody.
And yes, Scott, you can still send healing. Thank you.